This morning, a Texas father is pleading for the return of his 6-year-old son, who he says was illegally abducted by his ex-wife. Today, he's calling on the State Department and a sitting congressman to help his cause. Michelle Miller met with Chris Brann at his home last week. She's here with a story you're seeing first on CBS This Morning. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. According to the State Department, last year there were more than 1,400 open child abduction cases outside of the U.S., 39 in Brazil alone. And one of those children is Nico Braun, whose mother brought him to Brazil back in 2013. His father is now in the fight of his life to bring his son back home to the U.S. So this is his room.
It is.
Chris Brann has kept his son's bedroom in Houston exactly as it was the day he left.
This is where we changed his diapers.
The day his ex-wife Marceli Guimarães took Nico to Brazil for a family wedding.
And I started asking my attorneys what was going on. I got a phone call that essentially that they weren't returning.
Chris learned that Marceli enrolled their toddler in a Brazilian school, found a new job, and petitioned Brazilian courts for full custody, which they granted. Chris says he had no idea any of it was happening.
It's heart-wrenching. It's devastating. To be in a situation where I was seeing my son every single day, participating in his life, an active member in his life, a loving parent, to being in a situation now where I have less than 1% physical custody of my child.
Granted partial visitation by a judge, Chris now travels from Houston to Salvador every 8 weeks to visit his boy. He picks up his 6-year-old from school, spends the afternoon playing with him, and then returns him to his ex-wife's family. Are you able to see the change in him?
Definitely. It's hard for him to communicate with me. It's hard for him to be able to express to me in English what it is that's going on, what he feels.
Chris and his attorney, Jared Gessner, are fighting to return Nico to the U.S. They say Marceli altered several documents to conceal a premeditated abduction. Earlier this year, a Texas court found that Marceli wrongly and maliciously concealed Nico's whereabouts. And a federal court in Brazil affirmed that Nico had been taken unlawfully from Texas. Still, the judge ruled that Nico should stay in Brazil with his mother because he is well settled. We contacted Marceli's legal team in Brazil for a response to those allegations, citing privacy laws protecting minors in cases like these. Her lawyers say they cannot comment, only the local court can.
I think the most important thing to emphasize is both the United States and Brazil agree that the child has been illegally taken from the United States to Brazil.
Gessner filed a petition to have Nico returned under the Hague Convention, the international agreement which states that custody should be decided in a child's home country.
And under the treaty, a child who is illegally taken must be returned to their country of residence unless there's a risk of harm to that child presented by the left-behind parent.
What's it going to take to get Nico back?
Look, I think this is going to take the direct involvement of President Obama reaching out to President Rousseff and saying this just needs to be resolved.
President Obama stepped into another international custody battle, the case of American David Goldman, who fought for 5 years to bring his son home from Brazil. Goldman's victory gives Chris Brann hope.
He needs to come home. It's been 2 years. This house is like a mausoleum to him. Everything reminds me of him. But I will never give up.
The State Department told us it is working with the Braun family and already cited Brazil repeatedly for failing to meet its obligations under the Hague Abduction Convention.
Those stories are always heartbreaking to me because the kids really love their parents, the parents love their kids. And these guys have to figure out a way to figure out how you love your child more than you dislike your spouse.
Well, they had joint custody in Texas. The issue really is both parents need to have joint custody.
It's very sad.
I think that's what the law says.
Well, hopefully someone's paying attention
to your
story.
both Brazil and the United States.
Both places.
Hopefully your story will start a conversation. Thank you, Michelle.